So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Startup Skill the Virus, an event for and to help the European startup and innovation ecosystem. My name is Alberto Sierra, and I will be the moderator of this session. But first, let me briefly explain you why this event has been created. So, in a period when physical events have been cancelled due to the hard situation that we are all living, we noticed that there were a lot of startups that didn't know about all the opportunities that they have available for their businesses and companies. So that is why we thought that by putting all of this together, creating an event in collaboration with the European Commission and relevant stakeholders across Europe, like CDTI, national contact points, the Big Data Value Association, as well as all the European programs that will be presenting today their projects and their opportunities for the startup ecosystem. This will help definitely the ecosystem. So that's why we have created this event. So the event format will be 4 different sessions and thematic sessions. And you will find in the chat box all the next sessions together with the links for registration. Just to let you know that all of these presentation sessions will be recorded, and we will share with you all the materials in a follow-up email. So now let me introduce you the agenda of this first session. We will explain the EIC Accelerator, what to know about the instrument that support top-class innovations. So this session will be introduced by Luis Sanchez, who is a policy officer from the European Commission, and he will explain all the opportunities for SMEs under the enhanced EIC Accelerator pilot. Then it will be time for knowing more about the role of the national contact points to support SMEs in their way to success. So this part will be introduced by Luis Guerra, who is the Spanish national contact point for access to risk finance and SME support. So let's start now with the first presentation. Let me present you Luis Sanchez. He is, as I mentioned, a policy officer from the European Commission. He works at the European Innovation Council, and his presentation today will cover the main features of the EIC Accelerator pilot and its state of play. So thank you for being today with us, Luis, and the floor is yours. I think that we have some problems with the micro.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, better. So, well, can you see my screen as well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, just 1 second. Okay, so thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. Well, I'm gonna explain the EIC Accelerator pilot. I'm not gonna go over the whole thing of the EIC, so I'm not going to explain the Pathfinder because I think I had a very limited time. So I want to focus on the major support to SMEs provided by the EIC. And first slide is on the who are we looking for. At some point, it's also a question that what is the EIC Accelerator pilot doing or wants to do for the SMEs. So we are looking for breakthrough innovations, the kind of innovations that creates new markets, meaning that the companies leading those projects, and the projects themselves are high risk, are promising high growth and have a high market potential. So we are looking also for great management team, I would say, and I would like to stress this point because I think it's one of the things that make a difference in the selection process, the team, and with the ambition to scale up. So, and this is somehow the same I said before, there is an ambition for high growth. Companies with a demonstrated knowledge of the target market, with a convincing commercialization plan, and non-bankable. This is one of the most controversial concepts in the EIC, this non-bankability, meaning that the company is not capable to raise enough funding from the market. So probably because due to the high risk, there is still a problem with the investors that are reluctant to come into this kind of companies. So I think we will have more opportunities to go back over this concept. But what do we offer? Well, the EIC Accelerator offers substantial funding in two forms: grant funding up to 2.5 million euros with a funding rate of 70%, and an option of additional equity investment of up to 15 million euros. So there is a combination here. The grant typically covers the development of the technology from the TRL, the technology readiness level. That is one scale we usually use as an orientation. So we are talking about technologies that are already tested to the final development in the environmental, in the industrial and operational environment. And the equity for the commercialization mainly, not only, but mainly for the commercialization. This offer aims to be simple in the way that is mainly bottom up. So any kind of innovation is acceptable. So there are no sectorial prescription, there are no topics. So any field and any sector is eligible. Is flexible in the way that wants to be tailor-made, especially the equity part, and there is no geographical criteria, so it's completely competitive, and as we will see later on, it's very competitive. It's also agile, it's continuously open, so you can apply whenever you want during the course of the year. What we have is regular cutoffs, 4 per year. So we collect the applications received from the last cutoff and evaluate and try to provide a quick response. Normally it's 3 months, the time to inform. So from the time you applied, the cutoff was closed. And we have another 3 months for time to grant. So when the grant agreement is signed and the company can receive the pre-financing and can start the project and the financing. The application is maximum 30 pages and is trying to speak the language, the business language. So it's like a business plan. And we have introduced a novelty a year ago, more or less, but it's now really been active, which is the program manager. So we want to have the possibility of interacting more closely with the companies, with the founders, and to try to really reorientate the projects, provide more support, provide also the possibility to really adapt the necessities of the project to its own growth. Finally, the EIC wants to be innovator-centric. So we want to provide tailor-made support for the SMEs, as I said, with this combination of grant and blended support. So there is still the possibility of asking only for grant. And and this is important, the addition of business acceleration services. So we want to provide what we call smart money. It's not only the money, but it's also all the services like mentoring, coaching, connection with corporates, support to go to overseas fairs, and another more services that we are now preparing for the next program, framework program. How do we select? How the process works? You have to submit your proposal. As I said, it's 30 pages. We have regular cutoffs. Next cutoff is the 19th of May, and we will have another one in October, as I will say later on in the slide. We have an evaluation in 2 steps. First, a remote evaluation. So 4 experts will review your proposal, and we provide a score. And with that, we will prepare a ranking of proposals. The experts are looking at 3 points: the excellence of your project, because of course the EIC is about innovation, breakthrough innovation. There is proposals that have a origin in the research domain. The other point is the impact, and finally the quality of the implementation of the project. So these 3 criteria will be revised by the remote evaluation, and they will prepare a ranking. We will take the top ranked proposals that follow the next step of the evaluation. In particular, we have a budget for each cutoff. The average budget is around 164 million euros per cutoff. So we typically take twice the money requested compared to the budget we have. So we have 160 million euros. Normally we take projects that are requesting twice that amount, so around 350 million euros. Those companies that are invited to the interviews here in Brussels in front of a panel of experts, 6 experts, and they will have 10 minutes to pitch in front of them, explaining all the characteristics and features of the project, reflected at the end, which is the content of the proposal. After the outcome of this interview will be go or no go. So once a company has been selected, so they got the go, they enter into the phase of grant agreement preparation. As I said, this grant agreement preparation may take 2 or 3 months after the interviews. And then for those companies that have opted for the blended finance, will continue in parallel a process of due diligence and equity investment, which is what I'm going to explain now, because the other parts of the grant agreement so far is typically the SME instrument phase 2, and I think most of the people are more used to the procedure. But this equity part is in particular the main novelty. So for the equity investment, the first thing I have to say is that the European Commission is the one taking the investment decision. So there is no intermediaries. It is the Commission itself, thanks or through the EIC fund. That is a fund that has been created or is being created for this purpose. As I said, the maximum amount of equity is 50 million euros. And we will use different forms of equity type instruments like shares, other types of quasi-equity, convertibles, and so on. So it would depend on the stage of the company, the structure of the company, the outcome of the due diligence. One of the things I want to say, I have to say, is that it's a non-intrusive equity. So the Commission doesn't want to control or to interfere in the normal management of the company. So it's a silent investor. And finally, the EIC fund will be advised by the EIB group, which is acting as an advisor and is helping us to prepare and to process all the proposals for this due diligence. Well, I already advanced some of the investment strategy points, but in any case, I would like to stress with this slide that the aim of the EIC fund is impact. It's not return on investment. So it's an impact investment. What we want is to see the projects really deploying into the market their innovations. It's a patient capital with a long average perspective on return. So on average, we could stay with the company 17 years with a maximum of 15. Most of the things that I will say and I'm saying during this presentation are indicative, because it will be a case-by-case decision. And there will be, and this is also applicable to the exit strategy, so may include all the typical exits like IPOs, management buyouts, secondary sales, or liquidation, depending on the situation of the company at any stage. One of the relevant things for the EIC is, and one of the mottos since the very beginning, is to crowd in investors. So the EIC Accelerator is there to mind the gap between the project, the technology is ready, and the scale up of the company. But in any case, we would like to other investors to join in us as soon as possible. So in parallel, since the beginning, we will have a community of trusted VCs and investors that we will present the companies that the EIC has selected, and in the companies that we are planning to invest the grant and also the equity, to express their interest to either co-invest with the Commission or replace the Commission. That could be also an outcome for this market test, or there is no immediate interest to collaborate or to co-invest with the Commission, but they would like to provide mentoring, for example, in view of future investment, or definitely there is no interest, and the Commission will provide a loan, the equity, and also the mentoring and all the acceleration services that I mentioned before. So next slide will be on the due diligence. The due diligence will be performed by the EIC fund with the support, as I said, with the EIB group. And the goal is to really define the parameters of the investment. So we will try to look for the best agreement fitting into the company needs, and also with the view of the investment strategy. So we will try to stay along with the company, and what we want is to see this impact out of the result of the company. We will focus on the governance and quality of the company management, the capital structure and the financial planning, the business strategy, and the competition. All these elements will be analyzed and should configure the final investment agreement, the terms and conditions for the investment, for the equity investment. Well, another of the novelties is that the EIC has a very powerful advisory board. All these guys are part of the advisory board of the EIC, and they are helping the Commission to really figure out all the details and the way the EIC will take to deploy and to get the impact we are looking for. So it's just to show you that, yes, the EIC is completely committed with the innovators. You will see here very relevant people that are working in the field of entrepreneurship, investment, technology, and they are the guys that are helping us to really define the details of the EIC. So some numbers for you to understand exactly how the EIC Accelerator is doing since October and January, the last cutoffs with this new approach with the blended, because we have started with the blended finance in October. So first message or first feedback is that it's highly attractive. We have almost 2,000 proposals per cutoff, more even in, sorry. Okay. The accelerator is very competitive. It's around 3% of success rate. There is a strong demand for blended finance, especially in the, and that's logical, of course, on the equity, on the amount of money requested. And there is a lot of high quality of proposals, with 1/3 passing the threshold. So proposals that are above thresholds, that are very top ranked, that cannot be funded because the of proposals. For you to have an idea on the topics we are supporting or are the most successful, mainly engineering and technology, health, ICT, but also construction, biotechnology, agriculture, energy. But you can see 3 leading sectors, especially health and ICT. By country, there are 5 countries that are also leading the ranking: France, Israel, Switzerland, Germany, and Spain, but also United Kingdom, Denmark, Belgium. There is a high competition, and as I said. The last cutoff, so we have had 3 cutoffs so far: October 2019, January 2020, and March 2020. Well, we had the highest number of submitted proposals in March, around 4,000, which is twice the number of proposals we had in the previous cutoffs. This is mainly due to the coronavirus, because we encourage applicants to submit proposals a few days before the deadline of the cutoff. But not only, we have also more proposals than usually. So to tackle this extraordinary situation, the Commission has proposed additional budget for the COVID-19 related proposals. And we will fast track, try to speed up the process of implementation for these proposals. The interviews, the second step of the evaluation that I described, will take place starting in the week of the 11th of May. And in this occasion, we are, of course, ready to hold these interviews online for the first time. So it will be particularly challenging this time. In general, and for your information, the Commission is launching many different actions to try to help and offer research support and innovation for the COVID-19 crisis. So I encourage you to visit the website. There's a link, and you will have this presentation after the webinar. And we have now just organized a tremendous hackathon with more than 20,000 participants. And we have, in any case, many pitching events and many other actions. So I strongly advise you to regularly visit this website if you have solutions or ideas for fighting against or to try to mitigate this coronavirus crisis. So finally, as a summary, we have for this year 2 remaining cutoffs. The one in 19th of May is exceptionally dedicated to the Green Deal, and we will have a substantial budget, the biggest we have had ever, with more than 300 million euros. So you will have, if you have solutions, contributing to one of the 8 sustainability goals of the Green Deal strategy of the Commission, and this is in a very broad sense, you will be able to apply. And on the other hand, we have still one bottom-up cutoff on the 7th of October, on the one hand, and on the other hand, another novelty is, well, we will try to increase and to encourage proposals from companies led by women. So we will try to promote proposals that the company is led by the CEO is a woman or equivalent position, so meaning that the person that is taking the decisions on a daily basis is a woman. And we will invite these excellent proposals to reach a goal of 25% of women-led proposals at the interview level. So I think I have covered my presentation. So thank you very much, and I remain at your disposal for questions.
So thank you very much, Luis. We will have the Q&A session after the presentation of the other Luis. So I'm gonna make me presenter. So yeah, so now it's time for knowing more about the access to EIC and the role of national contact points to support SMEs and startups across Europe. So I am happy to introduce you to Luis Guerra, who is the Spanish delegate for X 2020 program, and especially for the SMEs and access to risk finance programs. His presentation will give you a view about the common purpose of 15 national contact points that works together as a network and with a common objective, support SMEs. So now, Luis, the floor is yours.
So are you able to see my?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation and the possibility to be here. As you said, I'm the national contact point in Spain, and I'm here to present what we do as national contact points across Europe. We have a project called Access to EIC, which is the kind of summary of all the national contact points of access to SMEs, sorry, access to risk finance and to the EIC. My idea with this presentation is give you basically three things. Let's see if it works. Yes, small words on who we are as national contact points. What is a national contact point? Perhaps some of you know, perhaps some of you don't. Second, what are the tools we are developing together in order to support any SME in Europe? And the third thing is, what else can we offer you as a network, especially if you are able to go or you are willing to go to the EIC opportunities? So the first to say is the national contact point is really national structure. I mean, we are in each country, we are nominated by our national ministries, we are finally supported by our national ministries, but at the end of the day, the Commission recognizes us and give us a mission. So the idea of this mission, especially related to the EIC, is to try to raise awareness on these opportunities for our companies, of our entities in national level, obviously organize training sessions for them, giving them assistance in the proposal writing, trying to help them to write proposals, trying to assist them when they are preparing their proposals before going to Brussels, and also especially in cases where national contact points are supporting collaborative research, we are typically offering participants partner shares activities. As you can imagine, there is at least one national contact point per country and at least one national contact point per thematic area in H 2020. That's obviously the EIC is all a part of it. So if you can find here in the link the national contact point in your country relevant to each of the parts you are interested, and you can find the link there. So then what is the project? Okay, the Commission, we are funded nationally, that's right. But the Commission says that, okay, we can benefit from interaction between us and sharing good practices and even doing things together. and fund us through CSA projects. I mean, the normal CSAs that you can find in H2020. So at the end of the day, this project, which is access to EIC, is a kind of representative of the network. In fact, we are only 15 NCPs host organization participating, but we are delivering training, tools, and support to the entire NCP networks. Okay. The good point of that is that, yes, we are able to identify between us good practices on how to support applicants at national level, how we do that is at national level. Based on that insights, we are able to develop together tools for you. We are a number of tools which are very useful when you are preparing your proposals. And finally, we are organizing and delivering training in conjunction with the Commission to the whole community of NCPs related to the EIC. In fact, this community is not longer, as you know, the EIC is not only the accelerator, but also the pathfinder. So these NCPs really englobe both parts, the EIC pathfinder and the EIC accelerator. So if we have a look at the overall EIC, despite Luis has also talked about the EIC Accelerator, which is the one that offers the blended finance, the EIC as a whole have three main parts. The one is which is the EIC Pathfinder, which we could say is generating technology. The EIC Transition to Innovation, which is this program aims to get technology out of research and convert it into a business. And then we have the EIC Accelerator, which is in fact this phase where the business is already still starting to run and willing to scale up. So if you think that in TRL levels, the TRL 6 to TRL 8 is the target TRLs for the EIC Accelerator in terms of technology. But if you think not only in technology development, but on how you are and the business is ready to go to market, so far the EIC Accelerator, or especially when it was named as SME Phase 2 or the SME Instrument Phase 2, were covering the moments on the businesses where they were starting to get some business model, they were starting to have some traction. So the MRL 4 to 6, which is typically the case where the Phase 2 was running. But now, if we think about what we did in the past for that, and we have GC already available for you because it was developed in our previous project, is the EIC Accelerator annotation template. So we developed in the past an annotated template for the SME Phase 2, and now in last months we have updated that to cover the novelties of the EIC and the EIC Accelerator. We also developed a kind of annotated pitch deck, as Luis commented before. You have to go to an interview when you are selected in Phase 2 or in the second stage of evaluation. Well, we make a document to give you the clues on this interview on how to do it and how to do it better. So that was already developed when the SM instrument was alive. Now, when we think about the rest of the EIC and the rest of the elements of the blended finance, you can see there, we are still now in development of a number of elements to support the EIC rest of the programs. As you can see there in red, we are doing something similar of the annotated template to the parts of the EIC which deals with Pathfinder and Transition to Innovation. It will be ready probably by this summer. And we are also developing some toolbox for especially for R&D based businesses. Okay, it comes going from a technology to a business is not obvious, so we are developing some tools to guide these companies to enter into this point. So if you can see here, that's a bit of our portfolio of tools for you. The black ones are already those that you can already find there, and we are talking a bit more on them. The red ones are the ones that are going to come in the near future in order you to be able to use them. And finally, and last but not least, we are also making an analysis on how these due diligence processes, which is new by design by the Commission, will take place and will look like for the future. And again, we are developing some tools on that level, but probably this will not be ready until the end of this program. So probably we are also looking with these tools for Horizon Europe, which is the next our program. So going a bit more on the detail, the first thing is just published. I think it was published yesterday, so you can find them in our website in the link. It's the official updated template with all the novelties. It includes all the evaluation criteria new. It includes comments from evaluators, especially from remote evaluation, but also from jury panels. And it also quite a number of recommendations for NCPs in the different part of the template. As Luis commented before, it's 30 pages template. Yes, it seems not to be very long. That's real, but it's really a very competitive call. So you need to be scored very, very high in all of the criteria to get to the interview. So with this template, you can get an access to the huge knowledge of NCPs and also for evaluator recommendation to give you a very relevant clue on how to do this writing. The second document you also have available, and it will be very useful when you are going to Brussels, is the annotated pitch deck. It not only talks about how to make a pitch. Probably in most of your cases you are already quite used to make pitches to investors. Probably that's the case. The thing of this template is also talking about how the interviews look like. At the end of the day, you have 10-minute pitch, which is quite let's say standard, but then you have a 30 minutes question and answer section where is really the core of the interview take place and where all the issues are raised and where all the elements on how are you really fitting with the Commission approach and the Commission program and the Commission requirements take place. And it's not obvious to how to tackle this or how to approach this interview. So again, in this document, you have a number of recommendations, a number of key questions, a number of real, let's say, hot questions that you will be requested probably in very high percentage of probability. So this is a good approach if you are going to Brussels. And third, final tool set you already have available and was developed it was developed originally for the phase 2, but most of its scope is still within the logic of the current templates, is our SME toolbox set. It includes 4 tools which are really downloadable. You can download them from our system, and it's really Excel tools that help you to organize first inside your company, talk about your revenues, talk about your pricing, talk about how are your financial look like, which are your unit economics of your business. The second one, it helps you to look outside, to look at your market, to look at your competitors in a, let's say, structured manner. So you can take a lot of information if you feel that tools correctly to be incorporated in your project. And finally, talking about the value proposition. Again, it's a tool that helps you to organize your value proposition as you are presented to your clients. But as you may see in the templates, it's really information you are requested to include. So how these are the 3 elements of the tool sets that are that helps you to organize, especially your impact section of your presentation of the proposal. And what else can the program offer? I mean, since until we get all the, let's say, tools available, you have 3 more options that you can benefit from on this program. The first is about training. Obviously, we are focusing on training for NCPs, that's right. But apart from that, we are making a selection of Coursera courses. As you know, Coursera is an online platform for education. So we have making a wide selection of Coursera courses for horizontal training based on business and communication. So you can access them also in our website. We have also a possibility to pitch into investors, especially dedicated for the Seal of Excellence. As you know, if you go above the threshold, but you are not get funded by the Commission, you receive a Seal of Excellence. Depending on the country you are based, this Seal of Excellence may have a national program where you can apply or not. But in any of the cases, what we are offering you through this network, through the EuroEquity platform, which is a pan-European investor platform, is having some periodic e-pitches. We were organizing e-pitches from the past, and we tend to organize a national kind of a pitch event or pitch contest back-to-back to events, really especially those events which are linked to the EIC and to the EIC community. And finally, what we are also doing now during this crisis, especially, we are doing more and more events, online events, where it's accessible for not only NCPs but also for participants. We are doing some online webinars with the Commission. We are doing on-site events on EIC issue with the Commission. Obviously, this on-site it's programmed, but we have to see how this evolved. And finally, you can find all of them in our website. So just to summarize what we are proposing you, just to give you a flavor of who we are NCPs, we are national structure at your service, obviously at national level. You can access all of the national contact points in the first link, and you can access the project itself in the second link. What we are doing for you is especially annotated templates, which are very useful because are really updated and really going to the target of the different EIC programs, and the downloadable tools. And finally, you can also find in our website events and training sessions that may be useful for your access into the EIC and some pitching to investors. So thanks all for your attention. If you'd like to contact us, you can find there the contact of our coordinator, which is Antonio Carbone from APRE. You can find my contact in Spain, which is Luis Guerra, and you can follow us in our Twitter account. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Luis. So now it is time to question and answers. We will try to cover the most of them, as we have some questions, another session in just 20 minutes. So I will go through the questions that are currently in the chat. Some of them are for Luis Sanchez, and the other are from Luis Guerra. So I will start with Luis Sanchez. I will unmute you. Well, Luis, are you here? Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes. So there are some questions regarding the EIC Accelerator. The first one is about is any limitation for companies applying to the European Innovation Council in terms of maximum age, revenue, or number of employees?
Well, in principle, companies have to be SMEs. This is a minimum requirement. So I have pasted the link to the Commission recommendation where you can see the definition for an SME. So it's based on the staff counting, the revenues, and so on. So you can see there are the limitations, but well, companies smaller with less than 250 workers and business amount should be below 50 million euros. So well, you can see there the conditions with detail. For the rest, well, I have already explained that there is no sectors. In principle, there is no any kind of limitations in terms of revenues and so on. But of course, we are. I also mentioned that we are looking for companies with risky projects. So they are having some problems, experimenting problems to really raise private funding. So, well, you have to take into account this is not an eligibility criteria, but this is an outward criterion.
Okay. So next question is about there are a number of startups that are subsidiary of large international companies. will be checked?
Yes, it's also part of the SME definition. So, well, again, in the same link, you can see all the information related to the assessment we perform for the checking of the SME condition. And one is that the ultimate owner of the company has to be and has to meet the conditions to be an SME. So, well, this is the condition. So typically, a subsidiary of a large international company not meeting those criteria would not be eligible.
Okay. So next question is, well, what does it mean that there are no geographical restrictions?
Well, there is no quotas, so there is a full open competition between the eligible countries, so the member states and the associated countries to Horizon 2020. So there is no any kind of predefined distribution of the budget per country. So this is what it means, that there is no geographical restrictions. So anyone can apply and anyone will compete in the same conditions.
Okay. And I think that this question is really interesting, and maybe it will be some of the attendees will have the same question. So can you further explain the non-bankable part? How does reviewers determine if a company is non-bankable and if the project is high risk?
Yes. So, well, and non-bankability is, well, the inability of the company to raise private funding to full deployment of their commercial potential. So when a company, typically due to the high risk that the company is facing in terms of the technology, the market, really doesn't make the company attractive to investors. So we consider that company non-bankable. So there is no other means for them to get the money to really move on to the next stage. It doesn't mean that the company has not raised any fund in the past. They may have raised funds, but not enough now for the next stage of development. And it doesn't mean neither that the company has no investors on board. They may have investors, but the investors cannot cope with the next round. So this is a kind of definition. It's not a very completely accurate definition, but this is the concept. How is it assessed is during the evaluation, of course, first by the remote evaluators in the first step, but particularly in the second one, in front of the panel. So the kind of evidences that the applicants have to provide are their experience, their accounts, their cash situation, the risk, all the different information related to these concepts will help the panel of experts, the jury, to really understand that the company really needs the EIC support and cannot be found somewhere else. In addition, after the selection, we run this market test. So we also ask to the community of VCs if the company is at that stage interesting, attractive, and we are happy, as I said, to get them on board as co-investors or even replacing the commission.
Okay, there is another question for Luis Guerra, but I see that you have already answered it through the chat. The annotated template is available in the official website of the Access to EIC project. So I'm really sorry about all the questions that you have right in the chat box. We have not time to cover all of them, but we will try to answer you separately. So I would like to thank you all the presenters today, and I would like you also to explore the next sessions of Startups Kill the Virus event. And why? Because as you know, the EIC Accelerator program is a really ambitious program. It is highly competitive. The award, if you are finally selected, is really high. You can get up to 2.5 million euros and 15 million of equity. But there are also some cascade funding opportunities funded by the European Commission and supported by the European Commission that have usually more or a higher success rate, and that is why we are going to explain, or this is what we are going to explain during the third session, during 3 sessions that we have during this morning. So if you have a company related to innovation in general, if you are an innovator, or if you have a startup that you want to see or to know which are the options available in Europe, then I will highly encourage you to attend these sessions. So the next session will be about the next generation internet. Then the third session will be about Startup Europe. We will come here with a presentation from Startup Europe itself and 4 different programs that supports with equity, free, and also free support services to the startups. And finally, we will explain, or we will speak about data economy and some programs related to data and cyber physical systems. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this presentation. Thank you also to Luis Sanchez and Luis Guerra for their presentations. I have enjoyed it very much. And just to remind you that all these presentations will be available online in a few shortly. And thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Have a good session today.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.